So glad to be here. Obviously, as Tito said, I'm not the pastor here. It's normally him who's doing the talking, but he's given me the honor and privilege to share a little bit about my life and what God has been doing. Just a little background about myself. I'm 20 years young. I got my family over here supporting. But if today's your actual first time here, we've actually been in a series called Crush. Now, it could be in any way. I think it's one of my favorite series because I think everyone can relate. At one point in their life, you've been crushed, either by your own decisions, by either someone hurt you, or anything in any situation. So with that being said, I'm gonna start off with a little story, okay? I'm gonna give you a little heads up. I don't have a filter, parents. I keep it real. No one really kept it real with me, but I just keep it real with everybody, so that's just who I am. So a little bit about my life. So this was, I'm gonna tell you a story about sophomore year in high school. So I was in Little Lakes High School, I was doing my thing. I thought I was the man. I thought I was the guy, right? Because I just got a job at McDonald's, right? I'm getting that McMoney, you know what I'm saying? I'm hitting the gym, looking a little decent for the ladies or whatever, And at the time, I used to be a very big pothead. I was smoking weed all the time. Like, when I mean smoking all the time, I meant all the time. And I remember this one time, I came home from work after a long shift at McDonald's. I was just like, yo, bro, what a day. These dudes, these customers rude. They stank. They want fries, whatever. So I go home and, whatever, I take a shower, get ready, and then so I go ahead and I smoke. I go smoke. And then so I wanted to smoke outside my window. I don't know why I thought that was a good idea. First and foremost, I shouldn't be smoking in my parents' house, but I was smoking outside my window. So I thought, like, hey, if I do it out the window, it's less disrespectful. So I thought. So here I am, I'm doing the dirty, right? And, I was supposed to be, I had, like, my parents, they would kill me if they found out. They would kill me till this day, still. And so I had a mindset, like, okay, in and out, boom, boom, get high, get done, go to bed, right? So I'm over here doing my thing outside the window, and time just kind of flew by me, no pun intended. It flew by me, and I remember my mom. She opens the door. My mom's laughing because she remembers it as clear as day. She opens the door. Boom, that stench of weed just hits her. Her mouth drops, and I look at her. She looks at me. She yells out a Bloody Mary scream. Ah! I'm like, oh, I done did it. And then all I hear is just some. My dad's running up the stairs. He's coming to get me. I'm like, oh, Lord. But I started chucking all the evidence out the window. I didn't want nothing to do with it, dude. I didn't want no weed, no nothing. My sister had to calm down my dad because he was huffing and puffing. He was about to blow me out, man. I was like, oh, my gosh. And all that chaos, I realized, wow, I just disappointed my parents. And I disappointed myself because that's not what they raised me to do. My dad he was very, very chill dude. If you meet him, he's super chill. The one thing he told me not to do was to smoke or to do any drugs, and that's the one thing that I did. So at that moment, I was crushed. I was disappointed. See, I didn't know how to cope with that. So my logical conclusion was like, I feel so bad, let me do something about it, because I thought I could do it by myself, so I started smoking some more weed. Or I actually started dabbling into harder drugs. I started doing coke and Xannies. Because I didn't think the odor, I thought the odor was what got me caught, but really it was a whole different issue. So here I am, I'm starting to dabble into harder drugs, thinking that I was going to be okay, thinking that I could deal with this disappointment by myself, and I was wrong. See, in moments when we're disappointed, we really got to rely on God. And glory to God, he set me free. Through a long process, but he set me free. My man, he's dope for that, And I give him all the honor and glory and credit. But so really the question stands is, how do we cope with disappointment? At times when we feel so low, whether it be because of your decisions that you made, or whether it be because someone hurt you, how do we cope with disappointment? So God gave me 3 steps, and in this whole spiritual walk, he gave me 3 steps. Everyone put 3 fingers in the air for me, please. 3 fingers in the air, okay? Number 1 is take ownership. Say it with me, take ownership. Number 2, make amends. Number 3, forgive yourself and others. See, I didn't know how to cope with disappointment, so I dove into drugs. Maybe that's what we do. Maybe your sin isn't drugs. Maybe it may be a bottle, or maybe excessive online shopping. Whatever it is, you fill in the blank. I don't know. Point is, we cope with disappointment differently. And I didn't know how to cope, so God, he really sat me down. And so really, this leads to my point number 1, is to take ownership of your actions. You see, if we go ahead and go to Genesis chapter 4, verses 6, we're going to go ahead and base off this right here. I'm going to give you a little background story. All right, all of you, maybe some of you may know the story of Cain and Abel, right? Two brothers. Abel did everything right in the eyes of the Lord. Cain was much like me. He wanted to do things his way or the highway. He didn't really care. He just wanted to do his thing. But Abel did everything right in the eyes of the Lord. And in this moment, Abel is doing everything that's pleasant to God. He's getting the blessings. And Cain, he's just kind of scraping by. He's not getting the blessings. And he sees his brother getting all the blessings, so he starts to get jealous. He starts to get jealous. He's disappointed because he thinks that he's doing the right thing when he's not, and he's not seeing the results that he sees in other people. So sometimes when we see results of other people and we compare it to ourselves, we're disappointed. It's like, man, I should be there, right? And that's a whole another situation. But let me go ahead and let's read this very quickly. So this right now, the Lord, I love the Lord. He's so real. That guy just keeps it 100 with you. He tells you how it is and how it isn't. So he's having a conversation with Cain. And so it goes, the Lord said to Cain, why are you angry? And why has your face fallen? If you do well, you will not be accepted. And if you do not do well, okay, I don't like this little version I don't like. I'm going to read my version. So that's the ESV. Mine's the NLT. But mine goes, why are you so angry, the Lord asked Cain. Why do you look dejected? You will be accepted if you do what is right. But if you refuse to do what is right, then watch out. Sin is crouching at the door, eager to control you. But you must subdue it and be its master. So it says right here, subdue it and be its master. You see, I try to subdue the fact that I got myself disappointed through drugs, and I thought I could be its master, but really, drugs became my master, and I started dabbling into something even more. Thinking that I can do it on my own when I can't do it, only God can. And see, that's a lot of our mentality. Like, I can do this by myself. I don't need nobody. I can do this by myself, because no one wants to have that sense of like, oh, I can't do it myself. The sense of being helpless. The fact that you're not in control, right? And you know what's crazy about ownership? If we're just talking about in the spectrum, ownership means that you own something, right? So let's say you're buying a house, right? Your first ever house, great. You bid on a house, and that house is not yours, but you're eager. You're thinking about it constantly because that house is not yours. You're thinking like, oh, what if someone outbids me? What if someone, presents a better offer and I don't get that house? You see, but when that person gives you the keys, when the real estate agent gives you the keys, you now get ownership of the house. You no longer think about that thing anymore. You're able to move forward to your next blessing. You're able to move forward in peace. Why? Because you have owned it. You no longer have to worry about it. And you know what's the crazy thing about ownership? The Hebrew root word for ownership actually derives in the word master. It's in the word master. So it's crazy how God is saying, yo, Cain, if you do things my way, you will be accepted. But if you do things your way, be careful, sin is out the door waiting to master you. And the only way you're going to master your disappointment is through me. That's what I struggled with that concept for the longest. I thought I can do everything by myself, and I couldn't. It's really through God. Guys, I'm telling you now, it's through God if you want to deal with disappointment. It's take ownership through God so you're able to move forward in peace so you no longer have to think about the thing that you're thinking about. Does that make sense? It's in order to really move forward, and in order to take ownership of something that you have caused upon yourself, whether it be a decision, a disappointment, whatever it may be, you got to take ownership through God. And Cain failed at that. He lingered in his disappointment, and because he lingered in disappointment, he didn't take ownership of the fact that he did it dirty. He did it wrong in the eyes of the Lord. He didn't take ownership of that. Therefore, he let himself marinate in this bitterness and disappointment, and that turned into anger, into hatred, and that ended up killing his own brother because he wasn't able to take ownership through God to say, you know what, Lord, you're right. I did it wrong. So this leads to my point number 2. How do we really take ownership? By making amends. I remember this one point in my life a few months ago, give or take, even like not even too long ago. God put in my heart that I gotta apologize to a couple people I did wrong in my life. It was a couple ex-girlfriends, a couple people that I robbed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I was really struggling with God because I was like, God, it's been years. I don't even want to bring it up. I may not even have to. They might not even know that I robbed them, et cetera, et cetera. But it was more than that. See, if we go to the next verse, it's Matthew 5, verses 23 to 24. I'm going to read my version. You guys can follow along there. It says, so if you're presenting a sacrifice at the altar in the temple, and you suddenly remember that someone has something against you, leave your sacrifice at the altar and go be reconciled to that person, then come and offer your sacrifice to God. So it's clear as day, guys, we got to make amends. As horrible that may be, because maybe you have done someone dirty, whether it be the decision, you lied to that person, you cheated, you robbed, whatever it is, you can fill in the blank. We got to make amends. All right, but not only got to make amends with that person, but you also got to make amends with God. It's really a two-step equation here. Make amends with God, Lord, forgive me, and it's all about repentance. It's not just saying, Lord, forgive me, and just like, okay, get rid of this guiltiness that I'm feeling, but it's no, Lord, forgive me, and I want to change my ways. Forgive me so I can walk in your light. So as I was struggling with God, it's like, God, I don't want to text this person. Like, it's been years I don't want to text this person. I did. And it was crazy because you know why he wants you to make amends? Because in the word it says, love God as I have loved you. Love others as I have loved you. We gotta, it's important to be a vertical, yes, to get right with God, but it's also right here. Or yeah, horizontal, yeah, right here. Yeah. It's gotta be horizontal. Yes, vertical, absolutely, but it also has to be horizontal too. You gotta show the love of God in others. That's about making amends. You see, because sometimes in life, you will be the only Bible people read. So let's say, for an example, I'm going to put myself in my shoes, right? I'm going to give you an example. I done cheated on a girl, right? I cheated on her, and she knew that I was a Christian. Now her vision of a Christian is tainted. She wants nothing to do with Christian people or the Christian God because I did her dirty, because I cheated on her. And now she's bitter and saying, oh, I don't want to do anything with God or anything with God's people because I know they will hurt me. That's her logic. I don't blame her. I did her wrong. But see, if I took the time to say, hey, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get right with God and I want to make amends with you because I was wrong. She now sees compassion. She just now sees the love of God. Yes, I made wrong, I'm a mistake, I'm human, but it's about the concept of how you may be the only Bible anybody ever reads. So, what's another way? Because it's going to be a short sermon, guys. Don't expect something lengthy and extravagant. It's very quick, short, and to the point. Guys, I just want to encourage you. If you guys feel something, if you feel like, man, if right now you're thinking of somebody that you should apologize to, do something about it. I know there's someone in here that is thinking about whether it be a scenario or a person that you got to ask forgiveness to. Maybe you lied to that person. Maybe you treated him bad. Maybe it's in the back of your mind. You kind of don't want to think about it. If you feel something, do something. Because that's just the Holy Spirit tugging on your heart saying, hey, you got to do what you got to do. It says clearly in this word that before we go to God, right? In my version it says sacrifice. What does that mean by sacrifice? Really, it's before you present yourself, your love. Because the only thing we can give God is our love and our worship. So before you come give yourself to me, go make amends with other people. It's that important, not only to make amends with God, but to others. And it's through Jesus. Don't try to do this on your own, because I'm telling you, it won't go well. So let's kind of recap. So we got to take ownership of our actions when we come to disappointments, and that's through God. That's first and foremost. Then you got to make amends with not only with God, but then through others as well. Ask for forgiveness. But there's actually one more person that you got to forgive, and that's yourself. See, for the longest time, I was able to forgive myself. I'm gonna give you another story. I'm just very transparent with you guys. I don't have no shame with my past, because that's not who I am anymore. Glory to Christ. As I mentioned earlier, I cheated on a girl, right? This girl, I wanted to say I love, but I thought I loved her, if you will. The point is, I cheated on her, right? And I even told her mom, yo, I want to marry your daughter. Like, it was like, even that, I was like, oh my gosh, are you serious? Like, yeah, I told her that, and so I cheated on her. And so she finds out, then she forgives me, and then, we're crying, she's crying, I'm crying, and whatnot. Then we ended up splitting ways, because I told her, like, hey, listen, I don't feel like anything has changed. I need to part ways because I need to grow as a person. Because I want to be a man, and a good man, it does not have a mentality that I have. I have some work to do. I know it's with God. I didn't know how I was gonna grow, but all I knew is that I needed God. That's the bottom line here, guys. We need God. We need God to deal with these things, because we can't do it on our own. You can try to play it cool and trying to suppress whatever disappointment that you have, but one thing is trying to suppress it so low, so down deep that you don't think about it anymore, and another thing is confronting it and healing, and that's only brought to you by God. See, sometimes we suppress it so long that we can move on, so we think we can move on because we're no longer thinking about it, but we haven't healed from it. And so we're hurt. Because when you disappoint someone, you disappoint yourself too. And when someone disappoints you, it's a whole other ballgame, but you're still hurt. You got to heal from it. And so I cheated on her, and I could not forgive myself for doing so, because this is one girl She was innocent. She gave me all her trust, her loyalty, and I betrayed it. And I could not forgive myself in doing that. I could not. That's not what my parents raised me to do. That's not what I want to be. And so for the longest, I was stuck. See, sometimes when you don't forgive yourself, that's why you're stuck. You're thinking about a certain scenario. Oh, well, this person did this to me. Or I did something that, whatever it is, you can fill in your shoes. I'm sure you guys can put yourself in your places. But the reason that you're stuck a lot of the times is because you haven't forgiven yourself. I had a friend, a coworker, that says, I can't love myself, or I can't forgive myself until I love myself. Well, what if it's the opposite? What if in order to love yourself, you got to forgive yourself? See, a lot of the times we've done decisions that we're not ashamed of, that we are ashamed of, and we don't forgive ourselves. So now we don't know how to love ourselves the way God sees us. That was my biggest struggle. See, because I knew I did wrong in the eyes of the Lord. I knew I did wrong to her, but I didn't see myself the way God sees me, pure and white as snow. And so I had to learn how to forgive myself for the decision, for me dropping the ball, if you will. I had to forgive myself, because in those moments when you forgive yourself, something happens. Peace starts to take over. You're able to now breathe because you have forgiven yourself, because you're no longer holding that thing hostage over your entire life. See, now when I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm no good for anybody because I'm a cheater, but it's no longer that. It's because I've forgiven myself and God has worked in me. I no longer have that on my back anymore. I know I can walk in light. See, when I used to walk in sin, now I walk in light, because I was able to get over this, not only through these 3 steps, but it's through God I'm doing these steps. You can try to do these steps on your own and you will get somewhere, but the place where you need to be, only God can take you when doing these steps. That's the bottom line. You gotta do it with God. We gotta stop thinking and having a mindset like, yo, I can do this on my own, when you can't. You can have all the greatest intentions, the greatest willpower, but we're all designed to need God. We're designed to need God, and He's the only person who can really make that happen. So I forgave myself. I ended up forgiving myself. And at that moment, when I forgave myself, I felt so free. I felt so free and so liberated, because I had to look myself in the mirror and say, Mateo, I forgive yourself for cheating. I forgive yourself for doing this person dirty. I forgive myself for robbing. Maybe that's some of you guys in here. Maybe you guys did something to somebody that you're not proud of. Maybe something that could happen decades ago, and that's kind of lingering in your mind. Maybe you haven't forgiven yourself because you dropped the ball in such a way that you know that's below your standard, and you feel stuck. Have you taken ownership? Have you tried to make amends? Say you are in this position where you're like, you know what, I took ownership. I made amends, but have you forgiven yourself? It's really like the bottom line here is, have you forgiven yourself? See, He's a gentleman. He's not going to press on. He's not going to force himself on you. He's waiting for you to take those steps, and He's there for you, waiting to take those steps. Now, before I hand it over to Tito, guys, I just want to go ahead and reprocess the steps, guys. Remember that in Christ, you are not a victim, because He became the victim so you can be victorious. All right, I'm going to say that one more time. See, you are victorious because God became the victim. Okay, so let's say, okay, but you don't understand, this person did me wrong, and I'm hurt because of what this person did for me. And you know what? Not only you got to forgive yourself, but you got to take another step. Take a brave step and forgive that person. Forgive that person for what they did to you, because at the end of the day, it is your peace. It is your burden. Oh, but that's not fair. That person should come and say sorry for me. Well, you're the one who's feeling this way about it. You got to take a step of faith and forgive that person. Forgive that person. Sorry, you got it. Forgive that person. Take a step and forgive that person. You can, because Jesus did on that cross. You can take that leap and you can take that chance of faith and forgive that person, because God died on that cross for you. So you no longer have to deal with these appointments. You no longer have to deal with the fact that you've crushed, or the fact that you dropped the ball, and the fact that you're still lingering on this. You don't have to do this anymore. You don't. But the thing is, the key here is that, guys, I'm trying to deliver this way. It's really all about Jesus. Had I do this without Jesus, I don't think I'd be here where I'm at today. I don't think I'd be here where I'd be at today if it wasn't for God.